What is the best macronutrient breakdown for mental health? My name is Dr. Ruth Otten. I'm a board certified adult psychiatrist, and the USDA recommends getting about 45 to 65% of your calories from carbohydrates, 10 to 35 from protein, and 20 to 35 from fat. But is that really best for everyone? So I'm going to give you the short answer right away, which is that there's no one right macronutrient breakdown that works for everyone. You really have to experiment and see what works best for you. However, there are some general principles that I would recommend following. So let's kind of take each macronutrient at a time. So if we start with carbohydrates, carbohydrates are the only inessential macronutrient, which means that your body can make all of the carbohydrate that it needs from protein and fats, which is pretty remarkable. And you don't have to actually consume it from your diet. That being said, carbohydrates are our default fuel source, and there are certain cells that require carbohydrates in order to function. Then we have protein. So there's a big craze about high protein diets going on right now. And for some people, this is really great. For others, it may not be necessary. So protein does have essential amino acids, which are the components of proteins, the building blocks. And so your body can make a number of the amino acids, but some of them we do have to get from our food. So when you hear people talking about a complete protein, usually in reference to the animal-based sources of protein are complete versus plant-based sources of protein which are incomplete, what they're talking about is these essential amino acids. So basically the plant-based sources don't have all of the amino acids in one source. You kind of have to combine from different sources to get all of them together, whereas the animal-based sources of protein tend to be a whole protein, meaning they have all of those amino acids just in one source, like eggs or fish or chicken or whatever. And then there's fats. So fats also have essential fatty acids, including omega-3s and omega-6s. Omega-6s are not hard to come by because they're in our vegetable oils, canola oil, plant-based oils. But the omega-3s, most people are deficient in. So this is going to come from things like fatty fish, like tuna, mackerel, salmon, herring, as well as a little bit in like grass-fed beef. But it is really hard to get all of the omega-3 that you need from your diet unless you're eating fatty fish multiple times a week. So most people can stand to supplement a little bit of omega-3. Now, we know in the past that fat has been demonized as being the source of cardiovascular disease and even diabetes from some studies. But we have since come to learn after a decade or more of low-fat eating that this type of eating pattern is not the best for our mental or physical health. We've continued to have growing rates of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And there's even been studies to show that people are more likely to have SI and aggression with low-fat diets. So what do we recommend for mental health? Well, this is going to come down to the individual. What is their age? What's their activity level? What's their metabolic health look like? So if someone has insulin resistance, then 45 to 65% of their calories coming from carbohydrates is probably too much. It's also important to keep in mind that the sources of your carbohydrates are also really important. So if you have 45% of your calories from carbohydrates, but it's all from refined sugars and flours, that's going to be probably worse for someone with insulin resistance than getting 65% of their calories from carbohydrates, but it's all whole food sources of carbohydrates. So things like fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, etc. As far as protein, these are really important because they are what make up our neurotransmitters. And as we all know, neurotransmitters are really important for our mental health. So it's important to make sure with any mental health condition that you're getting adequate protein from good sources of protein. I've seen recommendations ranging from anywhere from a gram per kilogram of ideal body weight. And when I say ideal body weight, I'm saying for women, this is 100 pounds for the first 5 feet and then 5 pounds for every inch after that. For men, 106 pounds for the first 5 feet and then 6 pounds for every inch after that. This is just a rough estimate, totally imperfect, but that's what we go by. So like I said, ranging from 1 gram of protein per kilogram of ideal body weight to 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. And we know there's like a 2.54 conversion there. So pretty big range. And then for fat, this is going to vary as well. If you're getting your essential fatty acids, the amount that you consume can really vary. But if you think about, well, if I'm going to be restricting carbohydrates or restricting protein or whatever, you always have to think about where am I going to make up that energy supply in other macronutrients. I will say the one thing about fat is there's probably fewer micronutrients and trace minerals in fat sources as compared to things that are high in protein and carbohydrates. And so sometimes if you have a diet that's high fat, it can be more difficult to get these things. And so it's important that you're being intentional about your food choices. Is there an eating pattern that you've tried with different macronutrient breakdowns and you found that one works a lot better for you than another? Please feel free to share in the comments below. Wishing you all good mental health today, and I'll see you in the next one.